I do want to start off with the Project Veritas. How could we not talk about this here on this show? You expect me to talk about it, so here we are talking about it. Project Veritas did an undercover video where you never know exactly how Project Veritas actually gets these videos. It looked like, were these guys on a date? Is that how they kind of get this guy to open up and talk really freely in these restaurants? It's really kind of unclear how they go about getting these undercover videos. But this undercover video was released by Project Veritas. We're not going to play it for you. You'd have to go to Project Veritas to watch it. But essentially, this is Jordan Tristan Walker. He is allegedly the Pfizer Director of Research and Development of Strategic Operations and mRNA Scientific Planning, okay? In the video, he's chatting very casually about what is called directed evolution. But he's talking about Pfizer actually trying to mutate the virus purposefully in the lab so that they could then make vaccines for the virus. Because as you know, the FDA has released that they are going to be looking at redoing their Pfizer vaccines, or the vaccine schedule, I guess, for all of them, Pfizer, Moderna, all of them, redoing the vaccine schedule where they say once a year, we want you to get the updated booster depending on whichever variant is out there. They're saying it's going to be like the flu shot, that you're going to have to do this. Well, Jordan Tristan Walker here, Dr. Jordan Tristan Walker, I should say, is talking about working at Pfizer and Pfizer trying to mutate the virus themselves so that they could then make vaccines for the mutated virus. Bombshell, right? This is trending all over. Everyone's saying, oh my gosh, this is Pfizer admitting that they're doing their own gain-of-function research in order to basically allow the virus to infect the population and then sell vaccines and make billions of dollars off of this. Okay, so a little bit of diving into this. Let's get to the truth and what's actually happening. So I do want to give some credit to, this is Brian O'Shea. He did a really fantastic Substack on this where he looked into who Jordan Tristan is. Because one big question when you see this video is this guy legit? Right? Couldn't anybody just say, oh yeah, I'm the CEO of the North Pole, and so let me tell you all about the inner workings of of Santa's elves. I guess anybody could kind of say something like that. So you have to verify that this person is who they are. Now, Project Veritas has a bad rap in some circles, in I would say many circles. Project Veritas is looked at as kind of this, does this sort of seedy investigative journalism, shady, not exactly on the up and up, but Project Veritas actually does a lot of their due diligence, but it's good for us to do due diligence on top of the due diligence, right? Even though Project Veritas often wins their legal battles and they are, what they put out there is often very truthful. Now, it might not be the whole truth, it might be a snippet of it, but it is actually quite truthful, no matter what you may have heard about Project Veritas. I don't like all the stuff that they do or the things that they uncover, but they do a pretty good job with their due diligence. So this guy, however, Brian O'Shea, his Substack also did a lot of due diligence on who this guy is. And he's discovered that Jordan Tristan Walker is actually a doctor. He did graduate from Yale. That's not where he got his medical degree. It looks like he went to undergrad at Yale. He ended up getting his graduating from medical school from University of Texas. He, according to the Wayback Machine, so what's gone on right now is if you look for him on the internet, so if you do any sort of searching for any of this that's gone on, for Jordan Tristan Walker or anything, you're going to come up with nothing. So when you do the searches, they basically scrubbed this guy from the internet as soon as Project Veritas released this video. But when you use the Wayback Machine, which allows you to look at websites before they scrub information, you could find who this guy is. And it turns out that he is, in fact, or at least he was, I don't know anymore after this video, but he was the current director of the worldwide R&D strategic operations and mRNA scientific planning at Pfizer. He began that job in October of 2019, all the way until now, or maybe until yesterday. Maybe today was his, maybe he got his marching orders today to march out the front door. Previously, before that, so he is who Project Veritas says he is. Previously, before that, May of 2021, or maybe he's actually it looks like, according to the research, that he either works directly for Pfizer or he is being assigned Pfizer from this Boston consulting group. So he works for a Boston consulting group out of Texas, focusing on biopharma growth strategy. Isn't that terrible? Just think about that, an entire division on biopharma growth. How can we get people to take more of our drugs? How do we get people to take more of our injections? How do we get more sick people to take our drugs for sick people? I mean, that's what biopharma growth strategy is. So he says here, he developed a 5-year growth strategy for large biopharma, created in-depth market and revenue forecasts to support recommendations for investment in prioritized therapeutic areas to CEO and board of directors for oncology diagnostic strategy. So this guy is helping grow big pharma spaces. Saying that he, right, so he says that he works for Boston Consulting Group starting in May of 2021, but he also says he started in May of 2021 working for Pfizer. So again, not really sure exactly, or maybe he was working for Pfizer. It's a little unclear. You know how sometimes these resumes are, but certainly it is verified. He also was a physician working as a urology resident physician in Boston. And so what you get is this guy is legitimate. He is a state of New York physician. He has his license through the state of New York. And so he is who he says he is. So that's who this guy is. Now, what he's talking about, I want to go over, is not exactly gain of function specifically. It's called directed evolution. And this is not new. This is something that pharma companies have been doing since the 60s. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to mimic natural evolution in a laboratory setting. So you can decide whether or not you think this is sinister, whether or not you agree with them and they're doing this. So I'll let you be the judge, but I'm just going to tell you what this guy is saying Pfizer is doing behind the scenes. Directed evolution is the mimic of the natural evolution cycle in a laboratory setting. So what they're claiming they're doing, what the scientists claim they're doing when they do directed evolution is they're trying to get ahead to see how is this thing going to evolve. So you've got COVID, you know it's evolving. Well, a better example, let's say the flu. So you have the flu, and every year the flu evolves and a new strain comes out, and that's why they say get your updated flu shot. And what they do when they make the flu shot is they're trying to figure out what's going to be the strain of flu that's circulating around this year. And they try to guess based on directed evolution. They're guessing, what do we think the flu virus that was out this year, what do we think it's going to mutate to? So we can make a vaccine for that and get it out to the public. So in a lab, they try to predict it by using controlled testing. They infect monkeys in a lab or other animals, maybe rats in a lab, and they try to see how the virus evolves as they put it into one and allow it to spread. And then they let it spread throughout their population, however many they're using, and then they see how it's mutating this time around. Then that way, when they make their vaccine for the flu, they can say, we think it's going to be this. So we're going to make the vaccine for this, and that's what we're going to put out there for the general public. Now, sometimes they get it wrong, and the vaccine they made for that year's flu doesn't work at all. But sometimes they get it right. And maybe it helps mitigate some people from having a more severe case of flu. So what he's explaining is that Pfizer's now doing that for COVID. They're trying to put COVID into whatever laboratory setting they're putting it into, and they're allowing it to evolve. They're allowing it to spread to see how it evolves. And once they see how it evolves, they say, oh, look, now we need to make the booster shot for this new variant of COVID-19. As we know, they've been extremely unsuccessful at making the vaccine fit the variant. They're always way behind it. Right? I mean, people in the first 2 doses of the vaccine were based on the original strain. They were giving that out all the way up through Omicron. Same with the boosters. And then they finally came out with this bivalent vaccine, and they're like, oh, no, this is now combining the new Omicron with the original. And so it's going to work better because it's, got more of the mutations in it. And so it should help you, even though now we found the data is showing that it's really not doing really much different. It's actually not that much different. So that's what they're trying to do is say, okay, we're going to continue watching it. And rather than waiting for the variant to come out, because what's going on now is the variant comes out, and then by the time they scramble to get themselves the vaccine made, they're way behind and a new variant is already out there. So they're saying, well, we're going to get ahead of it and we're going to make this in advance. Now, obviously, this is the same story with gain of function, right? Gain of function has this sort of good intentions, and ultimately the way to hell is paved in those good intentions. So what they say about gain of function research is they say, we want to know how viruses mutate to where they can infect bats and they circulate around the bat population and then they jump over to humans. How is it that they can evolve to a point where they can jump over into humans? So it's very similar to directed evolution. Maybe even want to say it's almost the exact same thing in some ways. But the gain of function, obviously them doing that, and it seems so innocent. Oh, we just want to know, how did it go from a bat to a human? So that in the future, we can spot this and get in front of it. That sounds like a good plan, right? Get ahead of it. Don't wait for it to already happen. You should prevent it. Prevention always sounds like the best way to go. So that is the reasoning and the justification for gain of function research. But obviously, that could go awry, completely awry. I mean, as we've seen now with the COVID-19 pandemic, if this came from the lab, which many of us suspect that it did, that it came from the lab in Wuhan, what were they doing? They were experimenting. They were doing gain of function research. They had the bats. They were looking at the viruses, and whoops, one got out of the lab. Either the bat or the virus. Not sure which. Maybe the bat got out of the lab. Maybe the lady in the Wuhan wet market did eat the bat after all. Who knows, right? But the bat came from the lab. Maybe they were testing it, or the virus came out with one of the workers inside of the lab. That is why gain of function research is controversial. We don't want them doing this type of thing because inevitably it's going to get out of the lab. You can't contain the virus. You can't see it. You can't spot it before you walk out the front door. You don't know. So that's why it's dangerous. And what are they mutating them into? And these are things that are not naturally supposed to be mutating like this. You're unnaturally mutating a virus that now can infect billions of people. So directed evolution is that it's a very similarly scary scientific process for them to be messing around with. Should these scientists, whether they have good intentions or not, and I would suspect that the suits in the boardrooms at Pfizer don't have the best intentions with this. My guess is they absolutely want to do some directed evolution so that they could figure out they could figure out, how they can make more money. That's all the suits are thinking. They're thinking about money. They don't care about the science. The scientists in the lab are probably actually doing science thinking this is kind of, let's do some science. But scientists can often become mad scientists. They do things in the name of science, but they don't stop to think about what this may do to humanity. What are the implications of this? What are the ethics of this? Sometimes scientists, they're just doing crazy science stuff. They get really engaged in the science. They get tunnel vision about the science, and they just forget about the implications of it. And the suits, of course, are thinking, how are we going to make a fortune? That's what they're thinking. So, of course, if this virus is meant to disappear on its own, do you think Pfizer, with its directed evolution, is really going to let that happen? Do you really think if they noticed that the evolution of the latest variant of COVID just evolves itself out of existence, do you think that they would let that happen? Or do you think they would say, wait a minute, well, no, let's maybe let one of these bats out of or one of these monkeys out? Or, hey, why don't we just start do you think something maybe would slip? I mean, stranger things have happened, right? So that is what he is describing when he's talking about directed evolution. It is these scientists messing around with the virus, thinking, on the most generous viewpoint of what directed evolution is. It is scientists genuinely, from the goodness of their own hearts, trying to figure out what the next variant is going to be so they can genuinely make a vaccine that is actually going to help humanity. That is the best, most generous interpretation of this. But we know that there's a lot of suits in the office, and they are looking to make billions upon billions of dollars. And so that is where directed evolution could go absolutely awry. And that is what Project Veritas, thanks to them, were able to uncover. However they got this video, however they got this guy to talk, He does look legitimate. He does look like he works for either Pfizer directly or this consulting firm that is consulting Pfizer on how they can grow their biopharma industry. So there you have it. That is what directed evolution is. All right. Let's talk about Birch Gold, our sponsor for this show, which we're very grateful for. Look at this recent article that came out from Barron's. Gold has the edge over stocks in 2023. I've been mentioning this to you guys all week. Gold is up 7%, while the S&P 500 is down to 2.4%. So it is a great time right now as we're watching things shift financially, often for the worse in this country right now. It's a great time to make some moves into gold. So you could diversify your investments by adding precious metals to your portfolio. It's a great way to protect your savings during these times of geopolitical turmoil. We got lots of that lately. We have no idea what's going to happen next. Birch Gold makes this very easy to do. They have almost 20 years of experience in converting your traditional IRA and your 401k into precious metals IRAs, which is a tax-sheltered way to invest in gold and silver. Plus, Birch Gold has an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, thousands of satisfied customers, and positive reviews. They're a reputable choice for anyone looking to invest in gold. So you can request your free information kit from Birch Gold by visiting birchgold.com/Kim. All right, we are now going Rumble only because our next guest is not safe for YouTube. We're going to be talking to someone who has been injured and is going to tell her story. She was the woman that was behind the viral Twitter meme that went out there saying, "Thanks, Pfizer." We're going to be talking to her next, so stick around. That is coming up.